The first question I'm always asked when I'm interviewed about drag kings is why are they not as popular as drag queens? To my face, it's rude. Firstly, it's because you keep asking that question and strengthening the rhetoric. And secondly, it hasn't always been the case. The boom era for the male impersonator has got to be the Victorian era, or more accurately, about 1850 to 1930-ish. It's a time of political change, particularly for women's rights, a huge change in societal thinking, and a time for the variety show. If you were looking for a banging Saturday night out, you'd head down the local music hall for a variety show. You'd be looking for magicians, mimes, acrobats, rememberists, and the biggest names on the lineup, male impersonators. We don't know when, how, or even who kicked all of this off, but we're sure as shit that if it was happening in the mainstream, it was happening underground for years before that. And by the 1890s, male impersonators were some of the highest paid performers in the whole of the entertainment industry. There are way too many to mention, so I've picked 4 of my favourites just to give you a quick lowdown. First up, Annie Hindle. This UK-born performer was the first to make it in the Americas in 1868, and it's fair to say they smashed it, receiving rave reviews to become a smash hit across the circuit for well over 20 years. It was Hindle's attention to detail and skillful accuracy that won the audience over. In fact, they were so talented at performing and singing as a man, even appearing as a man, that they managed to legally marry a woman not once, but several times, as each officiary genuinely believed they were male. Next up, Ella Shields. This US performer was the first to make it here in the UK. She started out as a song and dance performer with her sisters, but one night she had to fill in when one half of a male double act fell ill. And that was that. She rarely wore dresses on stage again. Now, I picked Ella not just because she had a stonking career right up until the Great Depression, but because she was most famous for a song that her husband wrote called Burlington Bertie from Bow, which was about a broke London bloke dressing up in his worn-out clothes but pretending to be really posh. It's actually a parody of one of the more famous songs sung by rival male impersonator Vesta Tilley, which was called Burlington Bertie. Now, we don't know if there was any actual beef there, but it does smell somewhat like some epic shade. She did work with some big names though, including a very young Julie Andrews, and it's likely she was the inspiration for the character Victor in the film Victor Victoria.
As wide as the Grand Canyon.
Next up, Hetty King, who started out performing in 1902 as an impersonator of female stars of the time, but by 1905 that became more specifically male stars. She became a huge name, and over the next 60 years she performed all over the world, throughout both world wars. She was most famous for performing as a soldier or a sailor, keeping up morale, entertaining the troops, and by 1930 she was the highest paid music hall star in the world. Eat that, RuPaul. Some of her smash hits include Ship Ahoy, All the Nice Girls Love a Sailor, Down by the Riverside, and Oh Girls, Why Do You Love the Soldiers? I could ask the same question, to be honest. King stuck at it steadfastly, even pig-headedly, while the world around her changed and fashions moved on. She did a load of pantos in the role of Principal Boy. Hey! But male impersonation was a nostalgic art at best, deviant at worst. But she was a legend through and through. There's even a blue plaque in her memory up on the last house she lived in Wimbledon. And Gladys Bentley. This absolute legend was born way ahead of her time. Never one for gender conformity, she preferred her brother's clothes to her own. And at 16, she ran off to Harlem, that was 1925, looking for the gay speakeasies. One night, at Harry Hansbury's Clam House on 133rd Street, they needed a male pianist. She got dressed up to the nines and stepped in. Thus began her most incredible career. She went for it, and honestly, it wasn't far off how we do it today. Risque songs, calling out toxic masculinity, using gay slang, even flirting with women in the audience. At one time, she had a chorus line of drag queens. But despite being an out lesbian for most of her early career, times change and so do laws. After years of pressure and harassment for wearing men's clothes, in the end she needed a special permit to do that. What? She publicly declared that she'd been cured with female hormones and an operation had made her a woman again. She changed career towards the end of her life, retrained as a minister, but sadly she died of pneumonia at 52, just before she was ordained. We don't know what happened to most male impersonators on the whole after about 1930. We know that laws changed a great deal and societal pressures made it very difficult for people to cross-dress and perform as a different gender. We also know that it had become associated with homosexuality, which at the time was seen as quite deviant. So they were pushed underground, and we don't hear much about them for many years after that. The saddest part of this story is that this mainstream art form was pushed almost entirely out of the history books. But today we have the opportunity to shed light on it again.